The day Superman almost killed Batman by accident. I'm Andrew, the Geek Master, and in this video, we're going to talk about the time Superman lost control and nearly killed the Dark Knight. To make sure you don't miss out on stories like this, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and let's get started. In the 2005 comic Superman Sacrifice, Superman started feeling incredibly guilty after some OMAC robots attacked a village in Peru where he had relocated the fortress of Solitude. This guilt caused Clark to lose his emotional grip, so much so that when facing off against the villain Blackrock, he couldn't control his heat vision, causing destruction in the city and terrifying the people of Metropolis. Things got worse when, at work, he used his X-ray vision to check on Lois's office and saw his wife talking to Brainiac like they were practically lovers. Clark smashed through the door in a rage, but was shocked to find that Lois was alone. He even thought Brainiac had messed with Lois's mind, so he took her to a safe place and swore he'd track down the villain. Using the fortress's tech, Superman tracked Brainiac to an underwater base. He quickly started a short battle with the villain, who kept taunting him, talking about Lois and how he had discovered Superman's secret identity. This enraged Superman so much that he punched a hole in the base, causing it to flood, hoping the pressure would crush his enemy. Unfortunately, Brainiac revealed he had brought Superman's loved ones, Perry White, Lana Lang, Jimmy Olsen, and Lois Lane, into the base. They definitely wouldn't survive the crushing pressure. To make things worse, Superman couldn't take them to the surface because the cylinders they were in were designed to hold humans at that depth. If Clark tried to take them out, their blood would fill with nitrogen and they would die. In short, Superman was powerless to save them, and they were all crushed to death. Devastated by the loss, Superman told the villain he had sworn never to take a life, but today, he was going to break that promise and began beating Brainiac savagely. However, suddenly, Superman found himself back at the Fortress of Solitude. Clark was now confused and horrified with blood on his hands. He couldn't remember exactly whose blood it was or how he got there. He could see clearly that it was human blood, based on genetic markers, which didn't make sense. If he had killed Brainiac, his blood shouldn't have been human. This left Clark wondering whose blood it was. To make things worse, the Justice League showed up, saying they were forced to act. Clark had a lot to answer for, and one way or another he would be taken in. Well, at this point in the story, you've probably realized that Superman is really not okay. That's why the Justice League decided to step in. Lois Lane was visited by Martian Manhunter at her home, who admitted he was there to protect her from her own husband, Superman, suggesting that Clark had become unstable, and if Lois was still alive, it meant Clark was suffering from hallucinations. The League was protecting all of Superman's allies. For example, Alan Scott was keeping an eye on the Daily Planet, and Shazam was watching over the Kent farm, all because of Superman's recent actions. Meanwhile, at the Fortress of Solitude, the Justice League wants to arrest Superman for assaulting an unidentified person. Green Lantern John Stewart warns him that he has set his ring to automatic mode, meaning that the moment anyone moves a millimeter above the speed of sound, things will spiral out of control. Clark still doesn't understand what's going on, and even with his bloodied hands, he won't allow anyone to threaten him in his own home. Flash Wally West tries to calm things down, saying they don't fight among themselves, but John says that's ironic because everyone knows what Clark did. Hawkman agrees they need to be careful. As Clark tries to remember what really happened, Black Canary enters the scene and sides with Flash. Although John again warns that after what happened, Clark is only free because he's Superman. If it were anyone else, they'd already be locked up. Since Dinah has always been the most pacifist among them, she tries to convince Superman that they're there to help him, but looking at Green Lantern, Clark can't believe that. He now wants to know why they came and whose blood is on his hands. Encouraged by Flash and Black Canary, Clark tries to remember once more, and this time he realizes he didn't fight Brainiac. When he was at the Daily Planet and looked into Lois's office, the person there was none other than the powerful and terrifying Darkseid. And even worse, Clark thinks he did something to Lois. Just then, Clark is caught by a boom tube and transported to Apocalypse, where he's expected to fight in an arena against his mortal enemy. Darkseid wants to defeat Superman, and he wants everyone to see it. He wants Superman humiliated because the people of Earth hate a loser. But Clark realizes something is wrong. Before the fight, they put on some strange gloves, and the only rule of the fight is that whoever leaves the ring loses. Clark doesn't feel like himself, so he plans to end this quickly, especially when he sees Lois in the audience, cheering for Darkseid. According to the villain, he implanted something in Lois's mind to control her, and that implant is also an explosive in case Superman refuses to fight. A battle begins. Superman throws the first punch at Darkseid's face, but strangely, it doesn't hurt the villain at all. Darkseid's punch, on the other hand, immediately makes Superman bleed and causes immense pain. And so it goes with every other hit that follows. Even as Superman takes the beating, he acknowledges that Darkseid is a being of absolute power. He manages to land another punch on Darkseid's ribs, but again, it doesn't even faze the ruler of Apocalypse, who fights with a grin, already planning what to do with the Man of Steel's corpse. Finally, Superman hits Darkseid with a double-fisted blow that seems to stagger him, but the villain quickly retaliates with another punch to Superman's face, claiming he thought Superman was much stronger. And indeed, Clark himself realizes that somehow he's growing weaker. This is when he deduces that they must have put kryptonite in his gloves, which is confirmed by Darkseid's own servants, who proudly admit they cheated. Meanwhile, Darkseid continues to beat Superman down. Then the villain lifts Superman with one hand and promises that he will make all of Clark's friends lick the dirt off his boots. His family will become food for his dogs, and Lois will be his low-caste consort. This enrages Superman even more. He uses his heat vision on his gloves, and now his punches finally deal significant damage to the villain, so much so that with just one punch he sends Darkseid crashing to the ground. While Darkseid is down, the Man of Steel simply moves the ring, leaving the villain outside of it, and since that was the only rule of the fight, Superman wins the battle. This outcome shocks everyone, but Darkseid acknowledges his defeat. He removes his control over Lois, who comes running towards Superman. However, just as she gets close, Darkseid crushes Lois's head, joking that he did it to remove the implant he had placed in her. This sends Superman into a rage, and he vows that this was Darkseid's last breath. First, he uses his full-power heat vision on the villain's face, then slaps both of Darkseid's ears with his hands, sending him violently crashing into the walls of his palace. Clark then dives onto him and starts choking him, saying that Darkseid is going to die. Clark only stops because Darkseid begs him to, calling him by the name Clark. This confuses Clark. How does Darkseid know his name? And that's the last memory Clark has before returning to the fortress with blood on his hands. Back at the fortress, after hearing this story, Black Canary deduces that Superman is being manipulated. When Clark asks whose blood is on his hands, Dinah tells him that Superman should know since he can see and identify DNA. And when Superman accepts this, he's shocked to discover the truth. He needs to see it with his own eyes, so they take him to the Justice League watchtower, where it's revealed that the person Superman attacked and nearly killed was Batman. Yes, Superman is overcome with guilt as he sees his friend in a coma with broken ribs. He still can't believe he did it, but the heat vision burns on Bruce's chest and the fingerprints left on his skin confirm that Superman tried to kill his best friend. Plus, the camera footage also captured Superman's actions. It all started when Batman was working alone at the watchtower, and suddenly Superman showed up, disoriented. Bruce sensed something was wrong. Without any provocation, Superman just started choking Batman and threw him across the room into the secondary security console. This potentially saved Batman's life because he was able to hit the button to activate the intruder countermeasures. Then, turrets appeared and fired at Superman with sonic blasts, apocalyptic disruptors, and broad-spectrum Thanagarian lasers all at once, throwing Clark into the atmospheric control center. There, Clark was confronted by a super robot, which he easily defeated, and then he refocused on Batman, hitting him with heat vision. That's when Wonder Woman arrived to take on Superman, but in his state, not even the lasso of truth could extract any answers from the Man of Steel. In the end, Clark created some ruptures in the base, forcing Wonder Woman to choose between saving Batman or pursuing Superman. It was later revealed that Maxwell Lord was the one behind Superman's mind control, but for a long time, the entire Justice League was afraid of what Superman might do. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the beating Batman took from Superman himself. To see more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, and leave a like to help us out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.